Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Spring Outdoor Learning Virtual Workshop Series brought to you by the Outdoor Learning Store and Take Me Outside. Welcome to Activating School Communities to Reduce Food Waste. My name is Jade Harvey-Beryl and I'm part of the team at the Outdoor Learning Store. We are a charitable social enterprise that offers outdoor learning equipment and resources for educators and learners, whilst also supporting outdoor learning non-profit organisations. I work closely with Take Me Outside, who are our partner in delivering this workshop, and I join you today from the traditional and unceded territories of the Snipes people. These lands have also been known, fished, hunted, cherished and stewarded by the Secretnik, the Okanagan Silks and the Tanaha people. So I'd like to say, wait, Gesuk quiet, hello, bonjour, welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So please remain on mute for the duration of this workshop. We are recording, and that recording will be made available to you tomorrow in a follow-up email, or also on our YouTube channel and on our website. We're going to have an introduction, the presentation, followed by some Q&A. And so please type any questions you have in the chat box. Steph and I are working really hard to collate all of those, and then we'll pose them to the presenters at the end of their presentation. And stay to the end, because we got some prizes for you today. Take Me Outside swag, Outdoor Learning Store gifts, and the ultimate prize of an actual waste-reducing FoodCycler for one lucky participant. So fantastic. So we know that in the context of outdoor learning, where we are, it's fundamental to acknowledge that Indigenous knowledge and perspectives are foundational to our work. And so if relevant to your place, we'd like to encourage what you can do to deepen your understanding. Thus, in this moment, if you would like to share in the chat what Indigenous territory you're joining us from today, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Looking forward to seeing all of those territories come in, where you're joining us from, and we'll do a little more of a formalized poll in a minute. My name's Steph from Take Me Outside. I'm the program coordinator for the organization. And so on behalf of our organization and our 30+ outdoor learning partners, we're really excited to be here this evening and welcome you all. I'm joining you from what is currently known as Castlegar, British Columbia. It is land that has seen the ongoing presence of the Snipes people, along with the Tunaha and the Silks Okanagan people. And very happy to be here with you all today. I'll hand it back to Jade.
Thanks so much, Steph. So for us, the silver lining for the last 2 challenging years is the growth in virtual workshops. So being able to offer these online has enabled people from across the world to join us, and especially those who are in more remote or underrepresented places. When we see a group of faces like this after your busy workday or wherever you've been, the field of outdoor learning just feels more connected than ever. So we are deeply grateful for your energy and for your support for this work, and to be able to share in this with you. Here's a quick poll just to get things going. Thank you for your Indigenous acknowledgement. But I'd like to ask, where are you joining us from in the Western sort of settings? You can scroll down, there are different options there. It's really interesting us to see where we are geographically and where those population centres are. I'm just going to leave it open for another 5 or so seconds. And it looks at this moment, we've got everyone except from Northeast US, Mexico, and rest of the world. Just a couple more seconds, and I'm going to end the poll now. And I can share with you that most are from Western or Eastern Canada, but we do have some people joining us from the real south. Thank you so much. And up north as well. That's brilliant. Okay. And our second question is, who are you? Really interested to know what role you play in education. And again, you can scroll down and there is not an educator, but just passionate about reducing food waste. I know that both Steph and I work as informal educators in some way, shape or form as well. Lots of people from across the board. We'll wait just another 5 seconds. Three, 2, 1. I'm going to end the poll there and share the quick results with you that people from most of the grades there, some educational admins, some informal educators, and what a diverse bunch we are. Thank you all so much for joining. So the Outdoor Learning Spring Virtual Workshop Series, this is the penultimate one, is brought to you by a group of over 30 partners and advisors from across North America. I'm just going to share with you a really quick background on who they are. So welcome to Activating School Communities to Reduce Food Waste. Our partners in delivering this and in the work that we do are Take Me Outside, PAX Fun, Ecom, Green Teacher, Green Learning, Natural Curiosity, Water Rangers, CB, EPSA, Wildsight, GEOC, Sask Outdoors, the Alberta Council for Environmental Education, Stoked on Science, Get Outside and Play, OC, Classrooms to Communities, KBE, Learning for a Sustainable Future, Imagine Ed, EcoSchools Canada, Leave No Trace Canada, Nature for All, and Megan Zenny at Room to Play, the NBEN, CPAWS, and the Outdoor Council of Canada, Oceanwise, Project WET, Interpretation Canada and the Interpretive Guides Association, Nature Kids BC, Project Learning Tree Canada, an initiative of SFI. And we now have a bunch and incoming of US supporters from New Hampshire, California, Georgia, Kentucky, and Illinois. So we're very welcome to our friends down south. And so I'd like to introduce our presenters today, our experts. We have three to share all of their wealth of knowledge with you. So Sierra Frank is Program Director with EcoSchools Canada. She's got 15 years of professional experience in education, environmental and non-profit sectors. She's got extensive practice developing programming and teaching people of all ages from preschool up to adults. Clara Luke has been working with environmental non-profits and startups for over a decade. And before joining EcoSchools Canada, she was looking at urban agriculture, food co-ops and sustainable food service. And then joining us from FoodCycler Science is Ami Gagne. So just last year, she joined as the project coordinator for Municipal Solutions, and she's passionate about creating spaces and amplifying the voices of QTBI, queer, trans, Black, Indigenous people of colour, Q+, all of the letters, everyone, being diverse and inclusive for everyone in her community, centering conversations on climate justice and decolonisation. And so I will stop my share. I will say thank you so much to our presenters and I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jade. I'll just share my screen to get started.
Excellent. So thank you so much to the Outdoor Learning Store for hosting today, and welcome to everyone joining in to the Activating School Communities to Reduce Food Waste webinar, which is presented by EcoSchools Canada and our partners at FoodCycler Science. Just a little look at what we'll be chatting about today. So first we'll share a little short introduction about your webinar hosts, EcoSchools and FoodCycler. Next, FoodCycler will hop right in to tell you a little bit about their electric food composter. And then EcoSchools will follow up to share information, strategies, and tips to tackle the issue of food waste in schools and school communities. We'll also be joined by a longtime environmental advocate and teacher extraordinaire, Linda Riot, who will share some of her experiences and insights after using the FoodCycler with her students this year. And finally, we will share a special offer to those interested in the FoodCycler for their classroom and school, and followed up by a question and answer period. And as I believe Jade mentioned, I think there's a great giveaway at the end of this webinar of an actual FoodCycler, which I like to call a magic machine. So definitely stick around to the end to be able to try and win that prize. So let's just hop right in to tell you a little bit about who we are. And I'll start off because I have the mic already. So we'll start with EcoSchools Canada. And since 2005, EcoSchools Canada's certification framework has provided independent reporting and recognition for schools and outdoor environmental education centers We reach about 1 million students annually, though that number has been a little bit lower over the past few years as we've all been contending with the challenges of COVID. We are the largest bilingual voluntary environmental certification program for K-12 schools in Canada, and the program is open to all schools across Canada. This includes English and French language schools, Indigenous and band schools, independent and private schools, also newly established remote and virtual schools that have been established as a result of COVID-19, and also outdoor and environmental education centers that are associated with school boards and districts. Our award-winning curriculum-linked framework supports school communities as they implement environmental projects, actions, and campaigns, all while nurturing environmental learning and climate action. So the EcoSchools program helps schools in a variety of ways, including to build environmental leadership and capacity for students, staff, and community members, to recognize excellence with robust reporting and also a collective impact framework, to connect to local resources through a strong network of both regional and national partners, to support Canada's commitment to achieving net zero emissions by 2050, as well as improving the operational efficiency of school buildings. We're very excited to be working in partnership with both the Outdoor Learning Store and also FoodCycler to ensure that schools have the support they need to tackle a lot of different programs at their school, including food waste. And now I'm going to pass the next slide over to Ami from FoodCycle Science.
Yes, hi. Welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for having us, Outdoor Learning Store, Take Me Outside, and EcoSchools Canada. We are very grateful for this partnership. So just to start off a little bit about FoodCycle Science. So FoodCycle Science is a Canadian company that's based in Ottawa, Ontario, and it was born from the alarming fact that 63% of food waste is avoidable and responsible for up to 10% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. So our goal is to really help people take ownership of their food waste and associated environmental impacts. So to do so, we deploy our patented technology called the FoodCycler to consumers around the world and provide on-site food waste recycling solutions to businesses, municipalities, schools, and individuals. So currently the FoodCycler is an active food waste solution in over 40 municipalities. And FoodCycler is also being used as a way to divert food waste out of landfills in conjunction with its use as a curriculum learning tool that provides a unique learning opportunity for students to really understand, what is food waste, the problems associated with landfills and food waste, and also to deepen the students' awareness of food waste. Can you go next, please? And then I shall talk about the FoodCycler itself. What is a FoodCycler? So it is an indoor food recycler, which transforms food waste into nutrient-rich soil amendment that can be then used for gardening or landscaping application. So to go into a little bit more details, can you go next, please? With the FoodCycle Science has proposed a very different way to deal with food waste, and it really focuses on managing food waste quickly, efficiently, and on-site. So essentially, we've built a small kitchen appliance about the size of a bread machine. Yes, sorry. And people put their food waste, which could include, anything from meat, poultry, fish, even some bones, compostable napkins, teas, coffee grinds. You push a button, and in a matter of hours, you have this dry, sterile, odorless, and nutrient-rich soil amendment that comes out. So the machine can be used anywhere with a plug. So in a classroom, cafeteria, teacher's lounge. Can you go next? Thank you. So the FoodCycler will process on average 1 kilogram of food waste per cycle. And each cycle takes between 4 to 8 hours to complete and uses less than 1 kilowatt hour of power. So like I said, it turns into 100 grams of dry, sterile, and odorless soil amendment that can be used in gardening or landscaping applications. So it can be included in a school garden or greenhouse. It can be added into an existing composting system used to strengthen the relationship between the community and the schools. So we have schools and municipalities that have drop-off programs at a local farm or community garden where students can go and do field trips So we can also incorporate this aspect of experiential learning and increasing community engagement and community health. Next. So there's a lot of benefits with the FoodCycler, and just a few quick technical ones are it reduces the organic waste up to 90% from the original volume. There's a 95% reduction of greenhouse gas emission from food waste when we use it, when we use the FoodCycler to manage food waste in comparison to sending food waste to a landfill. It operates very quietly and efficiently and uses very little energy. It also is a closed loop process, so it produces zero emissions or odors. And it's also small and compact, so the FoodCycler can fit anywhere that a food waste is generated. So in cafeterias, classrooms, teachers' lounge, people have been using it in their specialty and educational classes, such as culinary arts, outdoor education, agricultural studies. So all of these special classes will have units in the classrooms. Next. So before handing it off to Sierra and Clara, just a little bit of my experience working with schools. So a huge part of our work in the company is also raising awareness about food waste and educating others about the impacts of food waste. And with our amazing partners, OLS and EcoSchools Canada, they really provided us with an opportunity for us to help future generations take ownership of their food waste and shift away from the definition that we all hold currently, which is the definition as a product of our overconsumption culture, whereas waste is defined as something that lost its function and is now useless and has to be, disposed of. So we're here to change that mindset and, teach students that anything can have value and turned into a resource. So one of the pictures is me talking to a third grade classroom in Toronto, and the FoodCycler is being used as part of the curriculum learning tool to understand food waste. And like I said, shift away from this traditional understanding of waste. And once I explained the process of the food waste, this student said, it's a third grade student, said, the FoodCycler, that's like similar to the circle of life because it keeps bringing into new value and brings in new life. And I was like, wow, that is when I was truly humbled and learned that, oh my gosh, children are very intelligent and they already understand this concept of circular economy. There's also two pictures on the left. And so those are a workshop that I did with high school students. One of the activities we did was, let's talk about the impacts of landfills and the municipality and county's responsibility in managing waste management practices. And the activity was, let's write a letter to your municipality or your future municipality. And how do you feel about, the responsibility of waste management being, dumped on them as the future generation? And one of the postcards says, dear Ottawa municipality, we have too much waste. We need to begin practicing sustainable ways to compost our food waste. I just had a great presentation on how we can use our FoodCycler machine to help Ottawa people be more sustainable to our planet. Because before we know it, we will be living in a real life WALL-E. And as much as I think flying in a spaceship would be cool, our planet is much cooler. And I absolutely love that quote and I use it constantly. And another student wrote, I do not like dealing with previous generations' trash, and I do not want to do that to the next generation. And only we can stop it as in being the waste crisis. And it's about time that we did. And it is about time that we did. And so I'm going to pass it on to Sierra, who's going to be talking about the EcoSchools actions and how important it is and how easy it is to reduce food waste in schools.
Thank you so much, Emmy. I'm actually going to jump in at this point. So hello again, everyone. So yeah, we're going to dive a little further into the theme of the webinar, activating school communities to reduce food waste. And the first thing we wanted to do is just get a sense of where everyone at the webinar today is at with a little poll. So I'm just going to launch the poll, and what we're asking is whether food waste is a big issue at your school, or if you're not joining from a school, at your place of work. Okay, so I've just launched the poll, and we'll give everyone a few moments to answer. Okay, so yeah, what I'm seeing so far is that the majority think food waste is a big problem at 51%. Somewhat is the next most popular answer. It's somewhat of a problem. So, that is unfortunate to hear. I hope that we can address this in the webinar today, or at least give you some ideas to start working on this and creating those systems within your school. So thank you so much for everyone who joined the poll. And I'll just share the results here so everyone can see. All right. So thanks again, everyone. I'll just move on to our next slide here to get into a bit more context about the problem of food waste. So it is quite a big problem in Canada and around the world, as many of you probably know if you're interested in the topic and have decided to join today. It's estimated that nearly 60% of food produced in Canada, which amounts to 35.5 million tons, is lost and wasted annually. So often this perfectly good food is ending up in the landfill, where it creates methane, a greenhouse gas, which contributes to climate change. And disposing of food waste in this way leads to wasted resources and energy. And while schools aren't the only place that food waste is being generated, it's certainly one place that it's happening. And by addressing the food waste generated at schools, we can start addressing the associated environmental impacts. And when discussing food waste, there's two defining terms that are important to note. So the first is avoidable food waste, and this happens when food is discarded that is still good to eat, or when all edible parts of a piece of food are not used when preparing or cooking the food, or when the food is left to spoil. And then there's unavoidable food waste, which is part of the food that is not edible, such as a pit, a peel, or a core. And there are various reasons for food waste at school. Perhaps students are being packed too much food or food that they don't like to eat. And so encouraging open and honest dialogue between the students and their parents or guardians can support communication pathways to overcome this issue. And encouraging students to perhaps help with packing their own lunches can also help with this avoidable food waste problem. And then bringing awareness to the issue is the first step in activating your school community to reduce this avoidable food waste. So this can take place through communication campaigns, classroom lessons, assemblies, posters, whole school pledges, and contests. And then next, you'll want to ensure that your school implements a system to deal with your avoidable and unavoidable food waste that's best suited to your school community and aligns with your board and district policies. And this brings us to composting at school, so the many forms of composting that can take place. Composting is the process of recycling organic waste materials, such as food scraps, like banana peels and apple cores, paper products, and yard waste into nutrient-rich soil. And composting not only helps to reduce the amount of waste headed for the landfill, but also creates a fertilizer that helps plants grow big and strong. And there are a variety of ways to compost at school. So this may include outdoor composting, vermicomposting, indoor composting systems, and some schools also might have a municipal service that picks up their organic waste. So we're going to get into some different examples of all of these different types of composting now. So first, outdoor composting. These systems usually live near a school garden and help compost garden waste and other school-generated food scraps. They turn organic matter into nutrient-rich soil, which is facilitated by bacteria, fungi, worms, and many other microorganisms. The finished compost can then be used to improve the quality of soil in your school garden. And it's best done in an enclosed bin rather than in a large pile. And bins can be built, or you can buy prefabricated bins like the one that you see in the slide here. It is important to note that this type of compost bin requires very regular maintenance, especially if food scraps are going into it, and it's important to set up maintenance schedules. Likewise, these bins can attract animals such as raccoons or mice. So for these reasons, some school boards and districts may not allow this type of school-based composting system or have restrictions on the types of materials that can be placed in the bin. So make sure that you're aware of this before getting started with your own systems. Next, vermicomposting or worm composting is an easy process that requires only a few simple components: some red wiggler worms, a bin, and bedding for the worms to live in, which is usually shredded paper and food for the worms. So vermicomposters are maintained indoors because the worms used in vermicomposting are generally non-native species and will not survive if released outdoors. Vermicomposting can be a really fun classroom activity, and as well, as the outdoor composters, they do require very regular maintenance. But once you're in the rhythm and have those schedules in place, they're fairly easy to maintain. It's also important that for those caring for these systems are comfortable touching worms. So that's a key component here. And while composters are a great hands-on learning tool that can help break down food scraps, they're not intended to process large amounts of food waste. And as mentioned, some schools do have municipal organics pickup along with their garbage and recycling. So for these schools, the most important thing is to ensure that students are using the correct bins and sorting their waste properly. So in this circumstance, making sure the waste receptacles are paired and there is clear signage above or around the bins to help people know what items go where is very important. So when schools have municipal pickup, it's also important to focus on education around food waste and ensure students aren't disposing of that avoidable food waste that I introduced earlier. And then there are options for indoor composters. So for example, using jars for decomposition experiments, where students can place various food waste objects into the soil and see what happens to them over time. And these types of composters are meant for learning purposes, but also similar to the vermicomposting systems, aren't going to be diverting significant amounts of waste. And of course, there are indoor electric composters, such as the FoodCycler. So as Ami introduced, using these electric food cyclers, such as a FoodCycler in a classroom or school, is a really simple solution to divert waste and learn about waste reduction and decomposition in a really hands-on way. The units are easy to store in a classroom or countertop. They operate quickly, safely, and without odor, safe and easy to use, and produce a dry, odorless, and sterile byproduct that can be safely handled by children and teachers. And they can offer numerous learning opportunities for students around solid waste, waste reduction, and decomposition. So now that we've learned about the various types of composting systems that might be used at a school, here are some tips before you get started. So very important when doing anything on your school property is getting approval. So speak with your administrator and check with your board or district to ensure that you have your project aligns with policies and you are following proper approval process. And like we mentioned earlier, certain types of systems may not be approved by your board or district, such as an outdoor composting system, such as the one that you see on the slide there. And next, engage your custodians. So they may be able to provide insight into best practices for compost collection, maintenance, and care. And finally, a composting program, no matter what type you choose, requires commitment to proper maintenance. I know I've said that a few times now, but it is a very important piece of food waste and composting at school, because if not cared for properly, some composting systems may begin to smell or attract pests. And if they do, you'll need to be ready to deal with the situation. So to ensure you have a successful composting program, there are several tips for success. These include making clear signs about the composting system to inform others about your project. Ensuring you clearly indicate what waste items can and cannot be accepted. And remember, compost, especially vermicompost, is a living system. So plan ahead for the care of your compost system over the summer or other breaks like March break or winter break. And composting at schools also provides this authentic hands-on learning and for students of all ages, which can be easily connected to the curriculum. So some of these examples include incorporating composting and food waste into the science of decomposition, the benefits of compost as an alternative to sending waste to landfills, and supporting soil health. Composting can also become an opportunity for students to learn firsthand about the potential of circular food and gardening systems. And the soil amendment for your composting ventures can also supplement gardening activities, whether those are indoor or outdoor happening at your school. This can lead to class discussion about your city or region's composting programs and how it works. And if there is no municipal composting program, explore why not and research other cities' programs as examples. So tackling food waste can also be brought to a global scale. As we mentioned earlier, this is a worldwide issue, and it can be connected to the Sustainable Development Goals, which are a collection of 17 interlinked global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. The goals that food waste is most connected to include responsible consumption and production, sustainable cities and communities, and climate action. These SDGs were set in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly and are intended to be achieved by the year 2030. And in the EcoSchools program, we've identified the key SDG connections for each environmental action that your school might engage in. So making these connections can help students and teachers situate themselves and their learning in a global context. So further to that, there are many ways to connect a composting or food waste campaign to the EcoSchools program. To engage in the EcoSchools program, schools undertake a variety of environmental and climate change actions, which make up the backbone of EcoSchools certification and consist of fun and educational projects, campaigns, lessons, and challenges. Actions are designed to be flexible and adaptable to all subject areas and school types. The EcoSchools online application houses over 50 different actions that schools can choose to add to their plan each year. And schools can curate a set of actions annually to meet their student interests, curricular expectations, local and regional priorities, or school and community needs. And finally, actions are connected to the theme of this webinar today include planting a pollinator garden, vermicomposting and school-based composting, reducing food waste, and food gardening. So those are all things that you can, if you're doing it at your school, you can claim through the EcoSchools program and towards EcoSchools certification. And to take a closer look at one of these actions I mentioned, so each action has a variety of information to support you and your students as you learn about and take action on a particular topic. And each action includes, first, information about the action or issue being addressed and connections to curriculum and the SDGs. Then there's an action guide, which provides simple steps to completing the action. There's a resources section with numerous helpful resource links. And of course, the certification questions, which you can complete for a total of 10 points in the case of this action. So our program is completely free for all publicly funded schools in Canada. So if you are interested in learning more or gaining access to lots of incredible resources, worksheets, and inspiration, we encourage you to register your school. All right, well, just before I pass it back over to Sierra, we just wanted to hear what you're doing at your schools. So the first question is, how are you reducing food waste and what has been your biggest success? And I welcome you to put these into the chat and we can talk about them more in the formal question period. But if there's some quick snippet that someone wants to share quickly with the whole group, you can unmute yourself and quickly share. We can take 1 or 2 comments, but if not, we'll have lots of time at the end. I'll just give a moment. All right, well, I'm seeing some notes come into the chat, so we can dive into those a little further at the end of the webinar. And with that, I will pass it back over to Sierra to talk about the FoodCycler pilot program.
Thanks so much, Clara. So yeah, now we're going to share about a small pilot program that we ran with schools this year. So EcoSchools piloted a program in partnership with FoodCycle Science and also with 5 school boards in Ontario. Each school board has been provided with somewhere between 2 or 3 FoodCyclers to distribute to different schools on a rotating schedule. And FoodCyclers were distributed to both elementary and secondary schools. They have been used by classrooms such as science classes and also hospitality classes to connect hands-on learning to the curriculum. And they were also used often by eco teams to run whole school actions or campaigns around food waste. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from those that have had the opportunity to participate. So here is an example of one of our school board representatives leading the pilot at her board, Halton District School Board, who said that the FoodCyclers are fantastic tools for classrooms, supporting teaching of waste diversion and composting, and that they can be really simply shared around to different classrooms to further support learning. A principal leading the pilot for their elementary school talked about the hands-on learning by stating that students were amazed to see that their food waste could be made into compost quickly, and were excited by helping the environment with this simple and easy tool. And finally, one secondary school teacher who had the opportunity to use the FoodCycler talked about it being a great tool for connecting to curriculum, and stated that the FoodCycler engages students to think about the importance of composting and is a great real life example for curriculum connections. And on that note, I am now very pleased to introduce to you Linda Ryan, who is a science teacher at Louise Arbor Secondary School, which is a platinum certified eco school in the Peel District School Board in Ontario. And along with her EcoSchools co-chair, Charm Krupi, Linda works with a passionate group of staff and students who are excited to engage in environmental learning and action. Linda had the opportunity to use the FoodCycler during the pilot program this year and has been kind enough to join us this evening because we are in Ontario, so it's 7 p.m. Or 7:30 now. And she's going to share some of her and her students' experiences with the unit. So over to you, Linda. You can unmute yourself and share.
Thanks so much, Sierra. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit. So we had the opportunity to do a pilot with the FoodCycler early this spring. Unfortunately, our intended trial time was cut short a little bit by COVID. We were running it with our Eco Club, and we were at one point not allowed to have in-person meetings. So that did cut our trial time down a little bit. But just to give you a little bit of background, we are in the Peel District School Board, and we run a vermicomposter at our school. We've done that for years with our Eco Club, but we don't have organics collection. I know other jurisdictions nearby do. And the kids have always wondered, you know, is it possible for us to get the green bin in our school? And because of that query, we actually had the opportunity from EcoSchools Canada and FoodCycler to participate in the pilot. So we were really excited about that. So we ran a 2-week trial with the FoodCycler using scraps from our hospitality program. Kids from the Eco Club came in, they collected the scraps each day, and we ran it through the FoodCycler every night. The kids did some measurements. We looked at the mass, we weighed it before and after, and looked at the appearance. And we had the opportunity to compare the results of the process and the outcome with our vermicomposter as well. So that was quite exciting. So we're going to go to the next slide. So one thing that the kids sort of reflected upon were that the process was very easy. It was easy to use, super easy. We just had to grab the compost materials and maybe chop it up a little bit so it would fit in the bin. Similar to the daily prep that you would use with a vermicomposter. From a teacher's perspective, we had it sitting in our classroom, and there were other classes going on. It was one of the common science classrooms, and it was super quiet, super unobtrusive. Like, it was just totally not creating any impact in the class. It was really, really seamless in terms of having it in the environment, which was wonderful. It was quiet, there was no smell. And the kids were absolutely amazed that the next day when they came to check, that this full bucket of material had been composted down into this about inch thick layer of material. And they were really struck by the appearance of the material. They said, oh, miss, it looks like leaves that you see on the forest floor in the fall. So it brought a real discussion about the food cycle, the cycling of nutrients in the environment. So we talked about humus, and we thought that was really neat that the kids started making those connections right away when they saw it. And we're intending to use that compost. So we stockpile it, and we're going to be using it in our outdoor veggie garden once we get everything planted this spring. So in terms of the applications, we sat down at the end of the process, and we kind of reflected about it. And the kids said that this FoodCycler was really easy to use for all. There wasn't a lot of special knowledge that you needed. Anybody could use it. And we contrasted that a little bit with the vermicomposter, because we're all very attached to our vermicomposter. The kids really take ownership of it. They say it's a little bit like pet ownership. And while it's not hard to maintain the vermicompost, you do have to be a little bit careful about the certain materials you add, that you harvest it appropriately, that the moisture content is about right. So you do have to be a little bit more mindful about using the vermicomposter, whereas the FoodCycler is very risk-free in that sense. And we talked about, where would this be good to use? And we talked about having it in schools for sure, helping us to reduce organic waste, which, even though we do run the vermicomposter, some of our waste still has to go into the general waste stream. And the kids thought of having one in apartment buildings, where so many condos and apartments don't have organics recycling or collection. So they said, you could have a room in the building that is a composting room, and then the compost that we generate could be used on rooftop gardens. And I just love that they'd started thinking about that whole cycle process of, not letting the nutrients go to waste and putting them back into the system. So overall, it was a really fantastic opportunity. I really thank EcoSchools Canada and FoodCycler, and we would love to have one back in our school if that's one that's possible in the future. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Emmy. Or sorry, Linda, and I will pass it over now to Emmy. So go right ahead.
Great, thank you so much, Sierra and Clara and Linda, for sharing your expertise and your experience. We love worms, they're always fun, but I've had a friend who got too excited and overfed the worms, so they unfortunately had to go on a diet for a few weeks. So FoodCycler, very risk-free in that sense. So just to summarize the many benefits of the FoodCycler kit. So, Sierra and Clara talked about making your school greener and taking the initiative to teach and expose students to sustainability through the EcoSchools certifications program, and also related to, global goals such as the SDGs and national and international climate targets. Another benefit is to educate students to take ownership of their food waste and encourage waste reduction behavior at the individual and also at the community level. Support the teachings of circularity concepts by partnering up with local community gardens and urban farmers to co-create community-based learning projects that also promote sustainability. And the final benefit is to really begin that transition for schools into this closed loop food production systems. So there are many unique benefits of having a FoodCycler within your schools, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about what this kit is and what's included. So what's included in the bundle? So it comes with the FoodCycler, obviously, a grinding bucket, a bucket lid that helps with keeping the odor it helps with reducing the odor. It also comes with 5 sets of carbon filters, 1 set of instructional guide, as well as 1 set of lesson plans. So these lesson plans were created in collaborations with the team of EcoSchools Canada, with their expertise on the Canadian educational curriculum and curriculum development. And there are 5 sets of carbon filters, like I said, and the filters can last anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So with regular use, The bundle is made to last anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 school years. And for the next slide, so all schools are eligible for a preferred pricing bundle for $479 for all of the things included. And we are very grateful for the generosity of our amazing partners at OLS for providing all of you with a 10% discount code on the FoodCycler for Schools bundle. We also have a quick teaser that we will be launching our refillable filters really soon. So instead of these disposable filters, where after one use, we have to recycle the plastic and dispose the carbon, refillable filters is where we'll have a container which can be refilled with carbon, which can be then either reincorporated in the FoodCycler and cycled back or safely be disposed in your garden. And I think the final slide is just about connecting with us. So I'm just going to finish it off since I'm already talking. So please feel free to contact me, even if it's just an interest. You know, I saw some people in the chat asking about grants. We have a grant writer. She is amazing. We have a business development manager. We have people working in the US. So if you just have any questions or you want to get more information, please feel free to contact me. My email is right there. And I will pass it back to EcoSchools Canada.
Thanks again, Ani. And yeah, I'll just say the same thing. You can connect with us at EcoSchools through our 3 social media accounts. Our website is ecoschools.ca. And if you do have any questions about the program, we are wrapping up our certification year currently, but we'd love to tell you more about how to get more involved in the fall. So please reach out to us at programs@ecoschools.ca. And I think with that, I am going to pass it back over to OLS and take me outside to facilitate the question period. And I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Sierra, Clara, and Ami. That was amazing. And yes, I have personal experience using one. I have one, and a couple of my classrooms that I go into as a community educator have one. So I have like a personal love for this resource. But just really diving deep, that was so fascinating. And the chat that you have stimulated is quite outrageous. I haven't seen a passionate discussion that deep and long in a long while. So thank you so much. But I did collate some questions here, or Steph collected them for me very beautifully in the background. But Lisa Sykes said, I love my FoodCycler, but I found that the soil I add to the FoodCycler, but I found that the soil I add the FoodCycler byproduct to is hard as rock. Am I adding too much? Is it too sugary? Because they do a lot of apples. What am I doing wrong? Do you have any advice there?
Sorry, the soil? Can you repeat the question? I may have missed the beginning.
So Lisa says that she loves her FoodCycler, but the soil that they're adding the FoodCycler byproduct to is hard as a rock. And she thinks maybe she's adding too much of the FoodCycler fertilizer, or they use a lot of apples, so maybe it's too sugary. She's not sure what she's doing wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've learned that the better, the more diverse the mix of food, the better it incorporates in the soil. And so if it's not a problem on, the soil being too dry, then we, really recommend you to mix it with something that's wet but also dry. So adding some coffee grinds, maybe limit the adding in a little bit of meat or dairy. So maybe just focusing a little bit more on vegetables and fresh products. And then we also have a preferred ratio of mixing the soil with the soil amendment. I believe it's 9:1 part, but it's on our website, so you can definitely take it, look it up. We do have this composting guide. I can find it and incorporate it into the chat, and it does explain the best way of kind of incorporating the soil amendment as a fertilizer with your garden soil. So I can find that and put it in the chat.
Beautiful. And we can always add that as well into the follow-up email.
Yes, thank you.
So which everyone will get tomorrow, and then you'll all grab it. Beautiful. Great answer. Thank you. Wendy asks, how would one encourage the reduction of food waste in people who are stuck in their ways? It often starts in the parents and grandparents who don't feel it's an issue, and then it filters down. What would you say in response to that?
I can try and answer that. And obviously every person and every community and situation is slightly different. I find that when kids are really passionate about something and they bring it home, then parents or grandparents are a little bit more likely to feel interested and engaged in the topic that their children really care about. And so I think instilling, a curiosity and interest with your students, sharing with them fact-based information about food waste, and also really simple strategies to be reducing food waste. Like we mentioned at the beginning of our slide presentation, just talking about what is avoidable versus unavoidable waste, and simple strategies to try and that don't cost money and actually might save money to reduce avoidable food waste. And, I kind of, while we were doing the presentation, I was watching some of the chat come through and really seeing that there was a lot of conversation also about health and wellness, and how often healthy eating also can really relate to that avoidable and reducing food waste and food packaging in general. So I think there's a lot of different strategies and techniques. They may or may not work with your community, but again, I think instilling that deep passion and care for your students will hopefully translate into the home as well.
Beautiful. And empowering those students to say, this is how I would like to do it, or I'd like to cook with you. Could we make these recipes and then wrap them in, reusable beeswax wrap or something, or I bought you this set for Christmas, or that sort of thing. That's a beautiful way. So the next question was Lauren asking, are there any grants that can be applied to fund for this initiative of bringing food cyclers into schools? There are a few, and Ami said yes, we'll send some follow-up links, but I've just posted a link. This is 2 of my teachers have been successful with the Learning for a Sustainable Future Action grant. It's closed at the moment. It reopens in the fall. It's a $500 grant, and 2 of my classrooms have got their food cyclists through this. And so that's one option I know works. If anyone wants to dive, we've got 3 more minutes before we do our soft close. But if you want to dive into other options, we can.
Yeah, just quickly, there are a lot of regional specific grants on food waste reduction, and a lot of schools and nonprofits are always eligible. So there's the Capital Regional District Food Waste Reduction in BC has a grant. We're always looking to work with schools and grants, and so we're always open to providing support and helping you with grant writing. So if there is one in your community that you're interested in applying, please contact us and we'll provide support for that as well. But we are trying to curate a list of grants. It's just very difficult because they're very specific and regional. So
awesome. But the support's there. How great. So Beth asked, she wondered if the FoodCycler, if anyone, of anyone using it in like shared apartment buildings or condos with shared residents. She was thinking you probably need to get permission from the property owner or landlord, but that could be a great idea as well.
To my knowledge, I don't know if anyone has it in a shared housing. So we do have a lot of people who have it in an apartment because, that's one of the big advantage of having a FoodCycler in an apartment, so that you can manage your waste at home. But we are looking to kind of work on with community housing to see how it can be incorporated. It is the same as a kitchen appliance, and it has all the certification of a kitchen appliance. So in terms of needing a permit, I'm not entirely sure. But we are, always looking to kind of expand the different uses of the FoodCycler in different, not just in houses, but also, apartments, community centers. We have a lot of municipal offices who have it in their, municipal office as well for all the staff. But yeah, we're looking into that.
It can be used anywhere. That's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask, does it? Yeah, plug it in. That's awesome. Great idea though. If you do live in that kind of environment, maybe ask. Emma said she wonders how much a FoodCycler would help in a lower income school. She's found that waste in their areas is more packaging than it is food waste. But she's thinking about maybe you could pair that with a community garden or some of the other sort of ideas that you mentioned about sustainable living. So anything to add to that?
I think I might have also seen some stuff come through about, waste-free lunches. Again, the EcoSchools program has, I think, about 50 or so actions with like a ton of resources, worksheets, support tools on a myriad of different topics. And obviously lunchtime waste is a really big problem in school, whether it's the food or it's the packaging. So there's lots of learning and action that can take place around that, but definitely pairing learning and action on food waste itself with the packaging as well can have a really big impact. And there are very cost-effective ways to reduce and limit food packaging as well. So I encourage you to just log in next fall to EcoSchools Canada. It's free for all publicly funded schools, and you can just take a look at all of our resources. You don't even need to participate in the program.
They are extensive but accessible and really well laid out. So absolutely agree with sending you there. Okay, it's 4:55 or 6 now. We just had like 3 or 4 more questions. I'm going to hold them and we're going to do a soft close. We're going to honor everyone's time to try and get you out here on the hour. I just wanted to share, firstly, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your expertise, for your care and affection for our planet and our students and everyone else. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'll continue with a little bit just to let you know that we just have 2 little things left. One in the spring workshop series. Our last workshop is on June 9th. It's Indigenous Learning Resources for Educators and Learners. And that's with several of our Indigenous partners sharing. Again, free and on here. And then June 23rd is the final monthly Campfire Connection, which is a virtual gathering with the Global Environmental Outdoor Education Council and our outdoor learning partners, where you can connect, communicate and share with other educators coast to coast. So June 23rd, that's the last one for this year. But it's time for the fun. Well, the presentation was super fun, but prizes is always a little extra fun on top of the really fun presentation. So Steph is going to do a random selection. We've got 2 $25 gift cards to the store, which will access some fun resources, 2 Take Me Outside t-shirts. And then we're going to do the grand prize of the FoodCycler. Steph, take it away. You've been on the random selecting machine, haven't you, already?
Yeah, I have. I've been behind the scenes just checking on whoever is still here. So if you stuck around, you're in the running. So first we'll do the 2 $25 gift cards to the lovely outdoor learning store. And if you haven't already gone and checked them out and seen all the wonderful things, then do that. And maybe we can pop the link in the chat there. That might even be my job, but I'm going to announce the winners. So Amy Nishio, you are one of the winners. I can put my email in the chat for these things too. Woohoo! Yeah, go Amy. And our other winner of the $25 gift card, I don't have a first name. I just have a letter C, Mohan. So C, Mohan. We don't discriminate if you don't have your full first name or anything written. You are just as much in the running. Jade, you shortened my name and my email. Awesome. Yeah, Jade will get my email right there. It's actually Stephanie. Okay.
Oh, just ignore me. I know nothing. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't. If you email that, I don't know. It might go to the right place. It might not. And then 2 folks who stuck around are going to win their choice of Take Me Outside shirts. I'm wearing one of them right now. You can't see it too well, but they're very soft and comfy. So the first randomly selected name, Angela McCabe. You are our first winner. Congrats, woohoo. And our second winner is Carrie Clarkson. So congrats to all 4 of those winners. I'll write my email in the chat.
The real email, not the fake email. These prizes are it's all just, fake. You type the email, nothing happens. I promise we will get your things.
It's like the skill testing question. It's like if you email the wrong email.
Can you find Stephanie in the web space? Okay, that's amazing. Thanks, Steph, for those awesome prizes. And the Take Me Outside store, again, non-profit social enterprise, the most beautiful t-shirts. Steph's modeling one of them right there. They have toques, caps for adults and kids. kids. Colin's book, Take Me Outside, which chronicles the creation of the nonprofit when he ran from coast to coast in Canada 10 years ago. There's a lot of really cool stuff there. So have a peek. The link's in the chat. But now, I feel like I should have some dramatic gong music. Bong, bong, bong. We've never had a prize like this. This is so exciting. For my prize, for the great prize, sorry, for my delivery, you are going to have to move. And it's a very miniature scavenger hunt. So there are going to be 3 items, and the first person back at their computer screen, camera on, carrying these 3 items. Oh, I see cameras come in. Come on down, say hello, give us a smile. The first person with all 3 items, and then to unmute and shout, I reduce food waste, very loudly. So these 3 items, and unmuted, camera on, shouting, I reduce food waste. Are you ready? The 3 items are: one thing that is natural or became from nature, one thing that is beautiful, and one thing that you have used to reduce waste in your place.
I reduce food waste.
Whoa, who was that?
Me.
Is that you? Hang on, who is it? That is Suki Davis.
Yes, so I just happen to have these. I have something beautiful from nature. And it's a beautiful walnut shell, the half, which is a heart. I can hold that up.
Okay, one item.
Reduces food waste, and you can see right here, it's a reusable spoon. It even has a little bit of almond butter left, probably from lunch, which I'm a little embarrassed about, but I'll share that. And then actually what is beautiful, I wanted to go for the senses, and this is lavender oil.
Oh.
And so I use this for calming for me and for the students. And so super fast, but I just looked in my drawer and they were all there in one handful.
There you go. Congratulations, Suki. That was milliseconds. I mean, I was expecting to have to make some really sort of awkward elevator noises, but you just swoop right in. Congratulations.
I work in a low income school. We actually have a food forest, and we're moving more and more to sustainability. And so this would be a beautiful gift for the school.
Oh, that's so lovely. What a great way to finish. That's magical. And thank you to everyone I see clutching things and who went on a mad adventure. I appreciate your effort. I appreciate your time and energy. I'm so sorry that you did not win. But you know, we're going to have a whole nother series of workshops in the fall, so there might be some fun prizes for you to work for at the end. So thank you so much. So again, it's 5:03. I'm going to say a goodbye, a soft goodbye to those who do need to go. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Sierra, to Clara, to Ami for joining us and to sharing their expertise. I wanted to, everybody, check your spam for the email with the recording and links mentioned in the workshop. Okay, it might not come into your regular mailbox. So I'm going to just do there were just a couple of really good questions left at the end if anyone wants to stay. Loving the waterfall of thank yous coming in the chat. Thank you so much. But here I'm going to roll out to you know, honor everyone's time, but to share. So Chloe asked, do you need many food cyclers if you were going to try and do a school-wide program at a secondary school?
So I think that would depend on, I guess it would be school-wide, so there will be a need for multiple school food cyclers. We do kind of encourage classrooms to share the food cycler when possible. But in terms of having a school-wide, you know, solution, then it would require, you know, multiple food cyclers. So if it's an elementary school, it can be in every classroom. If it's a high school or middle school, it can be, you know, in cafeterias, so multiple units in cafeterias, and implement some sort of food cycler solution based for schools. So if you have any more questions, you can always email me and we can talk about, you know, having a quote or exploring, you know, how many food cyclers needed for your school, because it really depends on different needs and different areas as well.
Amazing. Thank you. Kirsten asked, is the filter only good for one use? before you got the new recyclable ones?
No. So our current filters, they last from 3 to 6 months. So with regular use, and with our refillables, so it comes with, I believe, 8 changes of carbon. So that would equal to the same as 8 filter sets. So you can use it 3 to 6 months. As long as you're not concerned about odor, it can last very, very long.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Jason Van Wingarden said, with the FoodCycler, do you need to be conscious of the carbon to nitrogen ratio that you do with traditional composting? I don't know about this.
I can try and answer.
I feel like
I do
because
not
you're putting
know.
a small amount in, right? You're only doing that 1/10 ratio. I feel like the natural, it's a small additive to the soil. You're not changing the soil chemistry as much as if you just tried. You can't use the output as soil. It's just an additive, right?
Yeah, we did have a third-party lab verification on like the organic matter and how healthy the soil is after incorporating the soil amendment. I don't have anything really more to add. We do have some research done on methane itself, but not about nitrogen. But I can definitely look into that and ask our scientists to kind of see how that works out. But I don't have an answer. I don't know if Sierra, you have an answer, but I don't.
I might be able to jump in on that, and Sarah, you can add to it, not the final answer, but I think what you were talking about earlier, Ami, in terms of the ratios of like wet additives versus dry additives, nitrogen is more often found in the wet materials like food waste, and carbon in more dry materials such as leaf matter, as an example for outdoor compost. So it may be that if you're looking not to like have a more balanced end product that you're adding, you try to balance the inputs. So you're trying to have a bit more of a balance of dry and wet ingredients, to put it very simply, but I would still suggest maybe getting a bit more scientific info from your team.
Yeah, I just received, oh, sorry.
So no, I was going to say, Jason, you could do a scientific study, right, with your students, like do a test if you can measure the nitrogen or whatever in the soil.
I did receive a secret direct message from a coworker that's on the workshop, and they told me to not worry about the ratio for the cycle because it's good for the soil. So for the cycle itself, you don't need to worry about the greens and browns because most of the food waste is considered green. So it would be good for the soil and there wouldn't be a worry. And he does have a scientific background, so I think we could believe that analysis. So thank you for that.
Beautiful. We're all learning together. I love it. Okay, so Suki, new owner, proud owner of said FoodCycler, she asked, what about the maintenance time? I mean, I haven't maintained mine and it seems perfect, but I don't know. Are there some legitimate answers to that?
I guess I can answer. Very short maintenance time. You just, click a button and either change the filter when the odor gets a little iffy. Some people do wash the bucket. I do personally out of just personal preference, but it does, sterilizes it and completely dehydrates it. So there's no need to wash the bucket if you don't want to. So the maintenance aspects, very short. You just click a button and it just runs the cycle. Very quick, efficient, and easy.
Yeah, I'd say it's a very nifty bit of tech. It's not messy or complicated at all, in my experience. Okay, last question here. Thank you so much for everyone who stayed. We've had a fantastic audience of nearly 100 people earlier. And thanks to the 30 people who passionately stayed with us to the end. But Tammy Barefoot asks, the FoodCycler, what is needed to add to this? What is needed for the soil to use for growing vegetables? Are all the nutrients there because it comes from the food itself? But no, this is not a soil itself, right? This is an additive.
Yes, it is not, the FoodCycler does not create soil. It creates a soil amendment that can be used as a fertilizer, and also, you know, it's a catalyzer for, you know, speeding up the composting or the decomposition process. So it does help with the, you know, the speed of that process. So yes.
It
Sorry.
encourages
Lost
nature
my
to
train of
do that
thought.
decomposition and recycle nutrients through the process at an accelerated rate, right?
Yes, thank you, Jade. That was a lot more clear than I tried to.
Well, I've just been hiding quietly in the background, but I'm, you know, I'm seeing the process in my mind of what is happening to my soil. And actually, I haven't got the results yet, but I've been growing veg without the additive and with the additive with my students. So we're going to see what the outcome is on size and, you know, all these kind of things, but it's looking pretty good. But it's just a fantastic resource, and I'm so pleased and grateful to have access to it and to have had access to the three of you. I'm going to call it and say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all our participants. We'll reach out again with that follow-up email, and I just want to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for hosting, you guys. It was a great workshop. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you in a month. In June.
Thank you.
Good night.